Hi there, good afternoon. Welcome to Talent Connect. It's great to see so many faces. It's really fun to be back in San Francisco. The last time I was in San Francisco was 5 years ago at the first LinkedIn Talent Connect meeting. The Giants had just won the World Series. And so those of us who were rebels enough kind of snuck out in between presentations to watch the celebration parade. Don't tell my boss.
And so you don't work for them anymore, remember?
Oh yeah, different company, I'm good. And so it's really fun to be here again, but it feels a little bit like Groundhog's Day, because here we are again with the Giants in the World Series and presenting again at Talent Connect, so it's kind of fun. Anyhow, I'm Megan Holte. Sorry, forget about the microphone there. I'm Megan Holte, this is Monique Douglas, and we're joined today by Dana King from LinkedIn. Monique and I both work for the Global Talent Labs division of Microsoft, which is similar to a global center of excellence. We are tasked on a daily basis with figuring out what tools and resources would best support the needs of our domestic as well as our international staffing teams, and then arming them with the support that they need to make sure that they are efficiently using those tools, as well as maximizing ROI and efficiencies. In addition, my team is tasked also with delivering innovative sourcing strategies to enable sourcing as a strategic differentiator for Microsoft. So before we get too deep into the presentation, I want to tell you a little bit about the background and a little bit about Microsoft and the challenges that we face so that you understand what LinkedIn was getting into when they decided to partner with Microsoft. And from there, I'm going to turn it over to Dana, and she's going to talk about the path to connection. And really what that is it's an insider look at our partnership. Now you may be thinking, yep, sure, Microsoft, 400 plus LinkedIn accounts. Of course LinkedIn is going to partner with Microsoft. But the truth is they'll partner with you regardless of the size and scale and scope of your business. These LinkedIn reps are really armed with a lot of different resources to help you in your sourcing strategies. From there, I'm going to turn it over to Monique, and she's really going to talk about the heart of our presentation, which is how our partnership with LinkedIn has made an impact to our clients. We're also going to leave a significant amount of time for you to ask questions at the end, so be thinking about questions, and then at the end you'll just come up to one of these microphones and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. So who is Microsoft? Well, if Microsoft is anything, we are bold and we have big goals. Years ago, our goal was to put a PC on every desk and in every home. And for the majority of the developed world, we've accomplished that goal. Now our mission is to help people thrive and grow in a mobile-first cloud-first environment, We are 90,000 people strong. That's a lot of people to recruit for. We have a team of about 1,000 staffing professionals that hire roughly 14,000 people in the US, 9,000 people internationally, and for 450 different roles on an annual basis. Like I said, that's a big job. And LinkedIn is absolutely a critical part to our approach of hiring top talent. We are a huge, huge company, and we have a lot of different challenges that we face. Our landscape is really complex. We have a lot of different dynamics. So we have both international as well as domestic teams, as I mentioned. Now those teams have different recruiting models. So we have some teams that have talent sourcers as well as recruiters. We have some teams that just have recruiters. And so understanding what the model looks like internationally is a tough thing to do. Now take tools, both internal and as well as external tools, and try to put a value on that and try to assess what effective usage of those tools is a whole nother ballgame. And that's another thing that LinkedIn's done a really great job of helping Microsoft accomplish. And Monique will talk more in detail about different reporting and products that we've utilized to understand how to best recruit country by country. In addition, There's always cost to the LinkedIn license, as you know. And what may be a nominal fee to those of us in the US may be a completely different fee for a global LinkedIn license in India. And so understanding what ROI metrics are important, as well as what usage is going to be crucial for people to buy in and understand what they're actually investing in. And we are doing all of this during significant change. So as all of you know, we have a new CEO. We've also purchased Nokia and have gone through some acquisitions. And we're also in the process of a reorg. So we're trying to hire and staff for all of these people during a time of significant change. And that's where we came to, we really need to have a solid partnership with LinkedIn. And so Dana's going to talk through all of the things that we've done to build a strategic partnership between LinkedIn and Microsoft.
Thank you, Megan. It's a real pleasure for me to be on stage with Megan and Monique today, because it's over the last 7 years that my LinkedIn team has been working with the Microsoft team to sort of figure out what strategic partnership can look like. And it's really rewarding for us to be here today to share with you guys what our learnings have been over the last several years, and where we've gone and how we've learned together, and what we think strategic partnership can now be based on what we've seen as the outcomes of the work that we've been doing together. And you know, it's been a learning experience. We've sort of gone through some growing pains right alongside Microsoft, but they've really pushed us to be more able and more prepared to really be a good resource to their teams. And I'll talk about how they've done that for us. So, you know, I think I'd also like to reiterate something Megan said, and that is that this isn't exclusive to large companies. This doesn't matter whether your company is small or large or what industry your company's in. Your LinkedIn team is designed and even mandated to help you succeed. So the way that we can do that is really by listening to you and by understanding you. So we encourage our clients to be like Microsoft in that they have challenged us to help them. They have asked us the difficult questions. We've had conversations on topics like, okay, Dana, you know, our staffing managers are really not sure how to interpret this recruiter usage data. This doesn't mean anything to them. Showing them this average, so is this good or bad? Or, you know, this job strategy that we've designed, yeah, we get it, but how do we actually show and explain what passive pipeline generation means to our internal stakeholders and why this is important? Or conversations like, you know, we think that we need to change the way we recruit for leadership talent because our time to fill is really too long. LinkedIn, how can you help us build a business case to either refute or validate what we think we need to do differently? So it's conversations like that that have prompted and pushed us as their LinkedIn team to figure out how we can provide data to help them, or resources or consultation to help them. And one of my favorite things about working at LinkedIn is how much data we have. We are inundated with data up to our eyeballs, and that can actually be a good and a bad thing. And you guys, as our clients, hopefully haven't seen the bad side of that, but I fear that in some cases we give too much data to our clients and almost overwhelm our clients with data. But our teams are really trying very hard to bring you the data that is going to help you with your business case, that's going to make a difference for you. So the more we can understand your challenges, the more we can bring the right data to bear. Because too much data is not necessarily a good thing. An example of this is pretty simple. We were looking at recruiter usage, and we were looking at averages and aggregated data, and the feedback we kept getting was, you know, our staffing managers, this is meaningless. How can we make this more meaningful? And the more we tried to understand, okay, why is this meaningless? Well, you know, different staffing managers recruit for different types of talent, so what usage is appropriate in one area is not necessarily appropriate in another. So as we thought about this, we thought, okay, well, what we really need to do here is break out the usage data. Aggregating and creating averages is simple, but it's not actually helping us. It's not giving us anything actionable to work with. So we were able to deliver usage data to a department or a team level, and then give them some points of comparison to look at how their team compared to the usage activity of another team internal to the company, and then also external to best practices outside of the company, within the industry, within peer competitors. So giving a lot more framework and context to the data, making it much more actionable. So it's a pretty simple example, but I think one that we can all sort of see it could hold true within our own organizations. So I guess when you're looking at this matrix, I would just ask you where you feel that your team fits in relationship to your LinkedIn team and how you're working together. And as you're planning on how to optimize your LinkedIn strategy for next year, what would it look like to move your team into the strategic partnership level? What would it take from your team and also from your LinkedIn team? And I encourage you to have those conversations. So with that, I'll pass it over to Monique to give a little bit more detail on some of the outcomes of our partnership.
Great.
I skipped a slide, so.
I know. This is what too much data actually looks like, so that you know.
Nice.
For us at Microsoft, I don't think there's ever too much data. I think for us what it really is about is we ask for too much data, but that actually benefits you in the long run because as a result of our inquiring minds, I think we push the envelope on the data forefront, and you now have things that are available to you that I'll talk about in a few minutes in the Recruiter dashboard that weren't there 2 and 3 years ago. And I think that's largely because of the partnership that we have with LinkedIn, their willingness to listen to me a lot, and my peer group and all the great feedback that we give them. So let's get to the meat of this, because, you know, hey, you've heard of the story, the stage. We tell you it's a terrible world we live in the recruiting for 90,000 employees around the globe, with a new CEO and a new product strategy, and you know, wow, the world is really crazy for us. I'm sure just like you, right? It's crazy, just different. So let's talk about how we did this. Well, I think you have to take a step back first, right? So the first thing that we really wanted to do is we had to figure out how we were going to land this. We knew LinkedIn's solution in the center really well. As a center of excellence, our responsibility is to deeply understand what our vendors can bring to the table and help our staffing teams around the globe leverage the strengths of those different vendors, including LinkedIn, to execute the strategies that are unique to their marketplaces. So truly understanding the challenges that they faced and the tools that were available through the LinkedIn platform was super critical to us. We also then had to figure out how are we going to land that, because how you might land it in Japan might be totally different on how you might land it in India or how we would land it in the US. In addition to that, how we might land it in a sales and marketing organization in the US versus a technical team is also very different. So truly understanding those audiences and how we could help them understand the value of those products is super important. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to apologize. I normally do karaoke first, so this is why you're getting the breathing. And I didn't do that. I just returned from Fort Lauderdale. Actually, I returned last night at 9:40 to take a 6:40 a.m. flight to San Francisco this morning. So I'm breathing a little funny. So anyways, once we figured out what those different audiences were and what the solutions that LinkedIn could help them drive those strategies, then we had to put together the place a communication strategy that would land it effectively in the ground. And once we did that and really started to look at the data, we saw significant impacts in the organization. So I don't know if many of you are familiar, but LinkedIn offers a learning management solution called the LMS. So if I was told not to use acronyms, but I work for Microsoft, so sorry. So anyways, the LMS, or the LinkedIn Management Solution, came to us as a result of us looking at the data, and as Dana mentioned, we didn't know what was good or bad. I remember when we first started developing what we called recruiter usage reporting, I actually calculated the number of possible days that a recruiter at Microsoft could work on average. Okay, like I backed out vacation, I backed out Microsoft holidays, I backed out sick leave, and I said, I think that there are X number of days a month a Microsoft recruiter should log in. And it was really just my thought. I didn't really validate it or vet it with anyone, but we reported on it. It was something nobody had ever looked at before. And as a result of our request to say, hey, we wanted to understand this, LinkedIn stepped up to the table and helped us better understand not only the amount of time that recruiters were logging in, or the days, but we were able to see time, we were able to see activity, we were able to see response rates on in-mails, things like that now you all can see today, but 3 years ago you couldn't see this. Now it's not so novel, but back then it was. And as we dug deeper into this data, we said, okay, well, this is really great. Like, it's good to know this, but so what, right? Like, great data, but so what? And so we started to ask different questions, like, let's dig deeper into this response rate. And as a result of that, the LMS system helped us build solutions that helped our recruiters leverage the platform and be more productive. We were able to narrow in by looking at search activity. We were able to narrow in specific teams to help them grow their search strength or skills to be able to pull out candidates that they were searching for. So number of searches versus number of profile views helped us down this pathway of developing content that was meaningful to these organizations. InMail's another place. We've spent a significant amount of time recently looking at in-mail response rates. LinkedIn is taking a step forward and really wanting to enhance the platform for their member population. So you may all know, is that public knowledge? Can I say that? Okay. So you all may know about the new policies associated with response rates. And I think it's a great effort. I am all one for, hey, let's do what we can to improve the experience for our candidates. And so as a result of that, we said, well, let's look at ourselves. How should we look? What should it look like for us? And we actually started with one of our toughest teams. We have a small group of what we consider to be highly skilled recruiters at Microsoft that focus on our toughest talent, which of course is that my competitors. That's enough, you know who that is, right? And oftentimes our competitive talent doesn't really want to engage in a conversation with us. Believe it or not, I find that really hard to believe, but they don't. And so they don't respond to in-mails. And so we worked very closely with this team, looked at their response rates. We actually looked at the in-mail content they were writing. Megan's team sat down with them one-on-one, said, hey, let's have a dialogue. This is not about bad, good, or indifferent. This is about let's grow, understand, learn together. And in this pilot effort, Megan's team uncovered some really valuable things, helped this team increase their in-mail response rate with a 71% lift. Amazing, over a 4-week period of time. And as a result of that effort, we said, gosh, well, this is 10 plus recruiters and 400 plus recruiter organization. Maybe we should talk to LinkedIn about rolling this out. So as a result of that discussion, we now have started a new program with LinkedIn and their partnership where we've now brought this together where all of Microsoft recruiters will go through some pretty in-depth in-mail training to help them boost their in-mail response rates. Sorry, thoughts. And there's more to it as well. It's not just training a recruiter, but there's so many other opportunities within the platform that you can leverage. At Microsoft today, we are currently leveraging LinkedIn across our candidate ecosystem. So we have a CRM, we have an applicant tracking system, and through our partnership, we're able to look across this ecosystem all the way through to the LinkedIn platform and see where our candidates are. So if you're in LinkedIn looking at your recruiter seat, you can, see who is in our ATS by a flag that's there through our API calls and our partnership that we've developed with LinkedIn. This helps our recruiters be really productive. So time with a candidate who got in-mailed yesterday by the recruiter 2 doors down, probably not a good use of a recruiter's time. So understanding that and having that visibility really helps our recruiters be really, really productive. And later I'm going to talk about the impact of that on a candidate experience as well. So we're talking a lot about what recruiters get out of this, but there's so much more that can happen on the LinkedIn platform, and brand is one of those areas. So as a part of our partnership with LinkedIn, we have a platinum page that's available to all of you too. And here we talk a lot about our employee story and what it's like to work at Microsoft. But one day, Dana and I were sitting there talking, because I like to think like a consumer marketer sometimes. And we were chatting about, like, what does Microsoft do on this platform, like from a product perspective? I had no idea. And come to find out, neither did my staffing marketing folks. If you're in the room, I apologize. But they didn't either. So Dana and I said, gosh, we should get these groups together. Because I said to Dana, well, do you know what the solutions folks at LinkedIn are doing at Microsoft? And we were like, no, we didn't know. So we thought, gosh, what a missed opportunity. So we pulled the two organizations together from a branding perspective. So at Microsoft, that would be our product branding folks, and then our employment branding folks. And at LinkedIn, we pulled together the solution side of the house, which is their product marketing folks, and Dana's team. And now today we meet once a month. It's really interesting, but first we had to demonstrate what the value was. And I think to a marketer, the most valuable thing that you can say to them is, how many eyeballs can I get? What's the reach you can give to me from a product perspective, and how targeted can you be in that experience? And on the employment side, we knew really clearly the opportunity we had to be targeted, the reach. We knew what our own footprint was. But I don't know that our product marketing folks understood that information as deeply as we did. And so that has really helped us come together as a marketing organization and have a unified message. And now today, we actually do things in concert with each other versus competition from each other. So to give you some stats on like what making that turn has done for us, which I think everybody, well, we love numbers, so hopefully you do too, because we do. But in 2013, the Microsoft employee footprint on LinkedIn had 6.5 million unique first-degree connections. And in 2014, that number grew to 10.6 million first-degree connections. For us, that's great because we leverage our employee population every day to recruit and attract great talent to the company. If you work at Microsoft, I don't care what your first title is, your second title is recruiter. In addition to that, what we also saw was a significant spike in our followers. So this number here at 1.9 million is a 54% increase from 2013 of the number of unique followers on our platform. I attribute that exclusively to the partnership between our branding organizations because it simplified the message, it made a great experience for candidates, and we weren't sort of stumbling over each other anymore, which was, I think, has really improved the experience. So I talked a little bit about candidate experience. So at Microsoft, candidate experience is one of the #1 drivers of our overall recruiting process. And we think really deeply about how we can delight our candidates. Our candidates are our customers, just like you, right? Candidates are your customers. The candidate you have today may not be the right candidate for the job you have today, but could totally be the best talent for the job that you have in the future. So taking care, nurturing, knowing that population is really important. One of the first things we did with LinkedIn in this space was to really optimize the apply process. So today, through any one of our platforms, mobile, desktop, however you choose to apply to Microsoft, you can leverage your LinkedIn profile. With a simple click of a button today, you can upload it to us, and here we will have access to it. You actually give us permission to do that through API calls. In addition to that, I mentioned the ecosystem and cross-collaboration between our candidate systems, our applicant tracking system, our CRM, and then the LinkedIn platform. And I talked about how that impacts recruiter productivity, but I think what's the other benefit of that is the candidate experience piece, where recruiters can say to candidates, hey, I know you're talking to so-and-so in this division, or I saw that you applied to this job. Let's talk about what your experience was before we start having a discussion about the next job or the next opportunity. We've seen a significant increase in our candidate feedback, very positive since implementing these solutions, and we believe that that impact is largely because we have this cross-platform visibility and recruiters actually know what's going on and under their fingertips. Okay, but we're gonna go back to numbers because you know that's what's important. So We talked a lot about ROI, and I'm going to go a little bit more deeper. We'll go really deep, I guess, into ROI. I like this. So a year ago, I think, Dana and I were sitting having a discussion, and I have always said, you know, I have this job distribution thing, and I have, you know, come work with me ads, and all these things that you offer to me, but I need you to tell me how they land. And she'd go, oh, we don't do that. And I'm like, yeah, you can. I know you can. Come on. Share, share, share. So we went round and round about, well, no, we're not. I'm like, okay, well, how about if I share with you, will you share with me? And so as what we ended up doing, which I thought was really interesting, and I encourage you all to do this as well, is we started sharing our hire data with LinkedIn. And in fact, today, every 6 months, we put together a report, and we send to LinkedIn, and they push that membership, or that hire data up against their membership data, and they tell us how many folks have been touched by the platform in a variety of different tools that we purchase as a part of our agreement. We saw 72% of our hires touched by the LinkedIn platform in some form or fashion, which was pretty significant when you're talking about the numbers that Megan spouted out, you know, 14,000 folks, right? But what was really interesting to us was not the percentage of hires, but the number of different avenues or channels on the LinkedIn platform that touched our hires. What we saw was that a passive candidate took more than one touch. And it helped us tell the return on investment story to our staffing leaders around the globe, which helps them go get the budget that they have to give to me so that I can spend it for them, because that's what I like to do. This return on investment story actually is quite interesting to our staffing leaders, because not only do they get to tell a story about, hey, this is how it's touching our staffing populations, but in markets where, like, you know, China or India, or Japan is another great example, where LinkedIn may not have the presence that it has in the United States. You don't walk down the street and everybody knows what LinkedIn is, or not everyone has a LinkedIn profile. What we were able to do in those spaces was to take this return on investment reporting, the 72%, slice it down by each one of their regions or areas, and say, of your hires, here's the percentage that was impacted by this. And what we saw was some teams increase their overall recruiter seats because they felt like their hires were coming from maybe one channel too many. So like, for example, we had a country where a high volume of their hires were coming from the job distribution channel. And they saw, in comparison to their peer groups, that those peer groups had the same number of hires from that job distribution channel, but had even more hires from a recruiter seat. And when they saw that sort of comparison, they said, wow, well, maybe we're missing out on an opportunity here. Maybe we should increase the investment here and get more recruiter seats. And as a result of that, they increased those hires. Okay, so as we all know, the war is on for talent. It's out there. I don't think it's changed in my opinion, but some people would say it's changed a lot. But it's a war, and we all are fighting for great talent. And in order to do that, I think you have to keep your tools as a recruiter and a staffing organization honed and sharp. And one of the ways we leverage our LinkedIn partnership to do that is to better understand what our competitors' employees are doing, what our own employees are doing, and how they are looking at the job market, and how the talent pools that we're really interested in are interacting with the platform. And through these different 3 channels, we're able to tell a story that helps us influence not only our recruiting strategy, but our retention strategy and our competitor strategy. We take this information and help staffing leaders understand where they might want to invest in development centers, where it's not a good idea to invest in development centers, where strong talent is, and where we might want to actually go and do recruiting events. We do quite a few recruiting events around the world and try to bring talent back to one or another of many locations. And so we partner closely with LinkedIn to understand that data. What's interesting about this data is a fair amount of this data is available to you through your recruiter seat. So much of the talent pool information, again, you can get customized reports, so know that. We have customized report capability as well. If you're hitting a tough market, for us, the buzzword that started to come out probably about a year ago was big data and data scientist. And so we quickly, as recruiters, I think I know the words, but do I know what they really mean? Not always. And so we leverage our partnership with LinkedIn to understand what is a data scientist, first of all. What skills do they possess? Where do they come from? How are they grown? And then what interests them? How can we get them to come to Microsoft? What kind of jobs have they had? And what kind of jobs can we tell them about that we have at Microsoft that would attract that kind of talent? And those sorts of customized reports are available to you by just sitting down and having a discussion with your LinkedIn rep about the business challenge that you're trying to solve. Okay, this is a partnership, so yes, you too can get your nails done by LinkedIn and get stickers.
Did you see me doing this in the background?
This really is us. So last year at LinkedIn Talent Connect in Las Vegas, we all got together and went and got our nails done. We're a bunch of girls. Well, we have a couple of guys on our team, but they don't.
They were invited too.
They weren't invited to this, yeah. Dana ordered these lovely stickers for us online, and we had so many left over that we had them for this year too, so good investment, Dana. But I think what's most important about this, us bringing together, is that it took us all, right? It took every set of hands we had, between the LinkedIn team, between the Microsoft team, between our extended teams and the staffing organization at Microsoft, our branding teams that had never really come together and talked before. It was really a joint effort to build the solution that we have today and to get out of it what we get out of it today. In that process, I think we learned a ton as a company. I think we've influenced. I think what I'm most proud of the work I get to do with LinkedIn every day is I get to influence them. I get to bring my problems to the table and say, help me solve this. And we come up with really creative solutions that I think get rolled out. I see them live in a product. And that's super exciting to me that I get to impact the industry in the way that I do. So for what I wanted to leave you with, we're because this was a lot of talking, and hopefully you were not taking notes, but if you were or weren't, I wanted to leave you with 3 things I would go do. So if I were to go back and enter into my LinkedIn relationship again, what would I do? And I think what I would do first is really share my story. What are my problems? I don't think we did that fast enough in our relationship, and I think we could have moved the needle a lot faster had we just had an open dialogue and said, look, here's my problem, help me solve it. Mm-hmm. The next thing I think that I would do really early on is I would start to leverage the information that was available to me. So I found, and maybe this is a Microsoft thing, and I hate to say that over and over again, but the truth of the matter is, I grew up with Excel. I still write at some function stuff, so been in Excel for quite a while. And I was pulling data out of LinkedIn, populating my own Excel report, and really not sharing it with anybody but managers and things like that. And when I went back to LinkedIn and said, hey, look at this, look what I did, we saw product enhancements and we saw the information available on the platform. And so I think what I would have done is gone and looked at that stuff more specifically. I find that we like to pull it out, go play with it ourselves, and I think I could have spent more time understanding what was already available to me. And I think the other really big thing that I would have done is share data. I would have shared more information and really, truly more data. Sharing higher data was pivotal in our ability to understand return on investment. It changed the dialogue around at the budgeting time. So imagine me with a tin cup, because that's really what it's like. I run around the globe with a tin cup and say, hey, here's what you signed up for with LinkedIn, and now you got to pay me. And that sometimes can be really hard to do when you can't tell this return on investment story. And so having this data and being able to say, hey, staffing leader, here's exactly how many hires you had that were impacted by this experience, has really changed that conversation. So I encourage you to share your data as well. And now we're going to turn it over to you, because you may have questions. So if you do, we're here to answer those for you. There are mics here in the center on each one of the columns. I know you all want to be live. You can do karaoke too. I only do one song, so.
I was just, oh, excuse me, thank you. This is better for my height. I was just wondering about the 72%. Was that more so in one region of the world versus another, where you saw that growth?
That was our overall average.
It was the overall average. I mean, most of our hires are US based, right? So if you think about percentage-wise. So if I had to say, without looking through the data, I would say it was probably a good 65 to 70% of our overall hires were US. But know that that's only industry. So those industry for Microsoft means a year out of college. So any hire that was a year out of college is considered an industry hire.
If you speak really loud.
Okay. You mentioned candidate feedback. Can you tell me how you get the feedback from your candidates?
Okay, so the question was candidate feedback and how do we get feedback from our candidates? We've done a couple of different things. One, we survey our candidates through the applicant process through a candidate survey tool where we send out a survey to our candidates. Our staffing marketing team has leveraged the LinkedIn platform to do some of the targeting that's available to us and ask questions there as well. We, as a central organization, depending on sort of what other feather is in our cap at the moment, will go out and talk to actual hires that have come into the company and really have one-on-one discussions about their overall experience. Does that help?
Yes. Do you get feedback from everybody if they've interviewed with you?
The question is, do we get feedback from everybody if you interviewed with us? And I'm going to say no, unfortunately. I don't know that we can handle that kind of volume. You think about 14,000 hires, and let's just say it's 3 to 1. We'll just say it is. Might be more than that, but I'm not saying that.
We're not putting any numbers to that.
We're not putting any numbers against that. So you could be talking 60,000 plus folks in a given year. And that's just the interview stage, right? If you talk about the phone screen stage or the apply stage, those numbers exponentially grow. And unfortunately, the Global Talent Labs team is, what are we, 15 folks? And we do have a program manager that's responsible for candidate survey, which we outsource that.
So I have a question about how you integrated your CRM, your ATS, and the LinkedIn Recruiter. I work for a company that is a Microsoft partner.
Yeah.
We implement dynamic solutions in the AX and CRM space, so we use CRM as well. We used to use it in recruiting, but it wasn't very effective. We're a smaller company. We have about 160 employees right now, but we plan on growing to 500 plus in 5 years. And so I'm curious how you got that little flag, because that's what we do. We go back to the old CRM and our ATS when we identify a candidate to try and see when we've talked to them and in what system they're in.
So I would actually, this is an example of where you could totally pay off from the work that we did, right? So we built CRM in Dynamics. It is a dynamic solution. And we partnered very heavily with LinkedIn to get that API functioning and working in a way that it was visible cross-platform. So the how, I'm not a technical person, although sometimes I think I am, and then I get a blue screen.
But did you work with your implementation
We
team
worked with our
internally and
implementation team,
LinkedIn's?
worked with the LinkedIn technical team
Okay.
to build out that solution.
Okay.
And I think if you talk to your LinkedIn rep and then had your rep talk to Dana, they could connect the right players. And we could connect you with our CRM. I don't do CRM, but I didn't build it at Microsoft, but we have a team or a guy that runs that, and I could connect you with him as well.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk to you afterwards. You'll want to ask for Recruiter API.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
It's the famous Marvin.
We love you, Marvin.
Hi. Can you go back to the slide that shows the 72%? I had a couple questions. Went away fast. So, do you know how many hires came from LinkedIn as the last place they visited?
And why is that important, Marvin?
Because it gives you some balance on the source of hire. We don't always have all of that robust information that you do in our CRM. And so we have a CRM going into an ATS, and we're able to label that last place. I'm just curious, because I had a general idea of what it was when I used to work there.
So I do know that. And we know that roughly the last source is about 22 to 25%, depending on the time frame of the data that comes from LinkedIn of our overall hires. One of the things that we're thinking about, ROI is something I live, eat, and drink just about every day of the week. I think I sleep with this stuff in my head all the time. And I sort of took away the visual of, I wanted to know where you were influenced by a couple of weeks ago in some reporting I was doing, and it really was a disservice. So now I try to think about end to end. And that's why the touch of the platform became so important to us in this dialogue of thinking about how many times or what are the different offerings that a candidate is touched by, whatever product it might be. So for example, we will see oftentimes candidates go to Glassdoor and look at jobs and look at information, and then we'll see them go to LinkedIn and look at employees or look at recruiters and jobs again and look at our company page and apply from that platform. And then maybe a couple days later, they'll be out someplace else, and because they were there, because other people track, because there's, you know, what you do on the web is not private, right? Like, we all know that. Someone else will send you something. Like the other day, I was shopping for a dishwasher, and now all of a sudden, I get more dishwasher ads. I bought one. I wish they'd figure that out, but I already bought one. It's installed. So candidates are getting served up jobs as well. And I think what's interesting about it is that it is a relationship over time. That it's not, that candidate source or ROI, like where did you come from, isn't a finite answer. It's not one, it's many.
I completely agree. I was just curious about that number because it was curious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's a good question.
So when you have Recruiter at 40%, is that LinkedIn Recruiter InMails that's driving that traffic?
Touch points for your recruiter seat, yes. It could be any of a variety of touch points. So yes, it could be an in-mail response. They don't have to necessarily respond. It could be a variety of different activities.
So can you talk a little bit how you've improved some of those? Are any one of those better than another channel for you to drive traffic from? I'm just kind of curious about that because you guys have a lot of options.
We do.
I can add one little data point that I found really interesting. We actually looked at we actually did some analysis and focused in on impacted hires that had at least 2 different touch points and what the order of those touch points was. Again, just sort of looking at the data to see if anything interesting or actionable would emerge. And what came of that was that we actually found that the top 2, and I don't remember which was top or which was second, but were touched by recruiter and job or touched by job and recruiter. So what that told us is that our algorithms that were pushing your jobs to matching talent were sort of the same algorithms that your recruiters were doing. So that was really validating. that the use of the recruiter platform and the job strategy really work together and complement each other. So, you know, we're learning all the time from what are the most impactful touch points, but I agree with Monique that it's a variety over time, and as the platform evolves, who knows what will emerge as things like sponsored updates take hold and are more targeted.
And I think that also speaks to the numbers that Monique was pushing out about followers, and the work that we did with our staffing marketing team around building out a career page that really speaks to candidates and having followers and getting people engaged with our internet brand, right? Because it's so easy to say, oh, you're Microsoft, you have this great brand. Well, yes, but so do our competitors. And so building out a platform that speaks to people where they want to spend time also improved our followers as well as our career page visits.
Really good points.
Hi. I love the fact that you said it's an end-to-end thing, because in actuality, if someone looks at someone's profile, that also can help us in terms of engaging people to come and talk to us, et cetera. So is that also reflected in there?
That would be the work with us, right?
No, well,
it's not work with us.
What do you,
So here's what happens, right? So when I send an email, almost invariably someone goes immediately to my profile and checks me out. Yep. That in and of itself has helped my in-mail responses and ultimately drive towards a hire or whatever. I mean, that's one way of doing it. It could be that I've set someone up with a manager and they've decided to go and look at that manager before even, you know, whatever it is, right? But it's those profile looks.
Recruiter profile views.
Right.
It's not recruiter.
I think
it's a candidate.
It's employee profile views, right?
Yes,
Which I think is really interesting. So we're not measuring it today, but thank you. I think
that's an
next
idea.
week
Let me take a note on
that.
No, but I think that helps with the ROI, right?
Yeah, it does. And you know, I mean, we didn't talk about in our partnership. One of the other things that we've done over the, I would say, probably the last 6 to 9 months is we spend a fair amount of time, believe it or not, educating our hiring managers on the LinkedIn platform. And how we use it as recruiters and how they can be effective partners on the platform. And one of those things is, now it's Rock Your Profile?
Yeah, Rock Your Profile.
What was it last year?
Rock Your Profile.
Okay. No, that was 2 years ago.
Primp Your Profile.
We called it Polish.
But that's too many PRs. Primp for your profile.
Okay. So anyways, we actually roll that in partnership with LinkedIn. We roll that training out to our hiring managers where, you know, their profile is as important as the recruiter's profile, because oftentimes we're saying to our hiring managers, go leverage this, right? I think an employee profile will become even more increasingly important as Microsoft recently changed our internal hiring practices and really sort of took the handcuffs off and said, employees, this is a fair market. The outside world's a fair market, so it should be a fair market for you inside the company, which wasn't the case a week ago. And we're looking to LinkedIn to help us with that as, you know, leveraging the employee's LinkedIn profile. And I think we're going to start to see Microsoft employees build out their profiles more robustly to help them enable their own internal career search. And I think as recruiters, we'll help our recruiters say, hey, this is happening now, and this is how you can use it. I think showing a prospective candidate what someone's career could look like at Microsoft is a really valuable tool. So Dana and I are going to talk about this reporting model, and we'll get back to you next year.
I'll add that to my list.
Any other questions? Yeah.
How much time do you think your recruiters spend on LinkedIn, maybe on a daily or weekly basis?
Call. Nathan, what would you say? And like, no pressure. Nathan, what would you say our average views on a monthly basis is? It's so hard because it's domestic versus international, right? So if you took the average.
Yeah, so I'm the guy that didn't have my nails painted. That works with Megan and Monique last year. Yeah, so it varies substantially, and I think that the thing that I certainly learned over the last few years of working with these hundreds and hundreds of recruiters around the world is, like, you know, more isn't always better. So we actually started to look at the behaviors of our most successful recruiters and sourcers, and then trying to model that back through Recruiter. And we actually found, like, this might sound really unpopular in this room or among some of you, but some of our highest LinkedIn Recruiter users were also some of our laziest sourcers and recruiters. So that's kind of, I guess we always took that mantra of like, oh, the more profile views, that's great, the more in-mails, that's wonderful. And so that really helped us challenge our own thinking. Yeah, so less certainly isn't always more.
I would also say it depends on the role. So at Microsoft, we actually have what we would call an A to Z recruiter. So you could be assigned to a business, own the recruiting of a requisition from sourcing all the way through hire. You could also be a talent sourcer, where your job is 100% focused on finding talent and bringing that talent to someone who's going to run them through the interview process through to hire at the company. So depending on your role, I've managed both teams, and your capacity to source, depending on the role you're in, varies, right, greatly. And when I've ran a candidate generation team or talent sourcing team, I've also, I think about the talent tools as sort of my fields, right? If you think about a farmer, right? And I can go out and farm these different fields. I would align the fruit, LinkedIn, let's see, Connect 6 now, right? Or Connect to Fire. I would align seats to each one of my talent recruiters, but say you focus in this space, you go deep, you go find X talent off of this platform, and that's where you spend your whole time. So you might see 100% utilization there, where that's all they're doing. So I think your model is really important. Yeah.
A follow-up to this whole discussion of the profile. How do you feel about a company as big as Microsoft? Do you ask your recruiters on their personal profile to brand themselves? With Microsoft, because I know LinkedIn does a great job of it, but all the recruiters work for LinkedIn, so it's, you know, connecting talent at mass scale or whatever that is. You know, you see on all the recruiters, but for Microsoft, would you ever ask that, or how do you feel about that?
We train recruiters to update your LinkedIn profile. If you look at my LinkedIn profile, I think I talk about my ability to influence the industry and make an impact. And I work at Microsoft, right? So yeah, I think for the most part, we do ask, I don't know if it's a, hey, could you go do this, but it's a training, and we say, hey, you know, in order for you to be successful as a recruiter, here's a tool for you, because people are gonna come look at you, and this can help you. Also, I think recruiters think like other recruiters, and they like to be recruited. And so they're going to update their profiles as well, right? Like as a result of that. I think for us, the difficult place was telling our employees, not recruiters, but telling our employees. And now as we move to trying to leverage LinkedIn on our internal platforms, we know our talent is coveted. And we're gonna, you know, amp it up even more. So it's gonna make us get really good at a retention strategy that's attractive to key talent.
Is there a partnership between HR and recruiting where you can, because that would really bother a lot of HR colleagues who are at a mid-level company, not a Microsoft, so.
Yeah, well, we're all part of HR. We all report up to Lisa Brummel. And so it is a connected story, and we leverage LinkedIn data that goes to Lisa. We talk about our win-loss rates against our key competitors and to LinkedIn.
And that's a lot of what my team would do. So it's building that partnership with those recruiters and those talent sourcers to do things like polish your profile and make sure that you're presenting yourself in a way that is going to attract top talent. And I can't remember who said it, but talent is looking at us too, right? Just like we're looking at them. So that's a lot of what my team does from a end user perspective as well.
Yes.
Questions in regards to LinkedIn Recruiter and the metrics that you gave out earlier. You said 14,000 hires and 1,000 staffing professionals worldwide?
Yeah, that's our number of hires per year and the number of staffing professionals we have in the company.
Okay. So it's 14,000 in the US and 9,000 internationally.
9,000 internationally.
Yeah. Okay. And roughly 1,000, and when I say 1,000, that doesn't necessarily mean just recruiters and talent sourcers. That's staffing management too. So like I would be considered a staffing manager or a recruiting manager. And so that would include my head count in that 1,000 people as well.
And
400 licensed, sorry to jump in on that. 400 LinkedIn license for the population?
Roughly.
Okay.
418 to be exact.
Oh, we're not saying numbers.
I eat, live, and drink those stuff.
So I was just going to ask you about the level of positions. When you say 14,000, are they all salaried, exempt, non-exempt, or is there also hourly positions?
So the
in that
14,000 and
metrics?
the 9,000, that's going to be full-time positions. That's not going to include any contract, and that would vary on level. So that's going to include, you know, our sales folks, our engineering folks.
So entry level all the way through?
Yes.
Yeah. We have, with the exclusion of our retail operations, we have very few what I would consider in the traditional employment market hourly employees. We have, most of our employee population is professional base, including our admin population.